Hey guys, this is Kevin, and I wanted to do another video this morning to address something that I talked about a few weeks ago. I made a video called What's the Attraction? And in that video, I was talking about the way that Filipino culture and Filipinas tend to prize light skin and Caucasian features. So I was talking about light skin, blue eyes, pointy noses. Those are all things that Filipinas tend to find attractive in men. And I had a few people comment on that video. And by the way, the comments were not negative or mean-spirited, or no one had a chip on their shoulder when they said this. But I had a few people say something to the effect of, Kevin, what about black guys? I'm a black guy, I'm dating a Filipino, we're happy. Why don't you say something about that? So I thought that was a pretty good suggestion, and I'll share my observations on that. First of all, when I was in the Philippines, I did meet black people who seemed to be just as happy as I was. In Manila, I met quite a few students or students from Nigeria. I even met one guy that ended up being a professor at one of the schools where I did ministry from Nigeria. And the people that came to the Philippines, no matter what color they are, if they approached it from the standpoint of adapting and embracing the culture, which I've talked about before, they were happy. When I moved to Angeles City, most of the black guys that I met there were African Americans who had some type of connection to the military. And again, I met some guys that had lived in the Philippines for years and seemed to be very happy there. And the same thing goes for dating and marriage. I have met more than one black guy who's married to a Filipina and just as happy in his life, in his marriage, as I am. So I would say definitely if you're interested in moving to the Philippines, or if you're interested in dating a Filipina, it really doesn't matter that much what color you are. Now, again, when I talked about the Filipinas' general preference for Caucasian features, that is true, but that doesn't mean that only white guys have a chance with a Filipino. That's not what I was trying to say at all. So, uh, anyway, one thing that I would caution you about, and this just kind of goes for anyone, but I think you'll find that it applies if you're a black person just as it would if you're a white person. You have to remember that Filipinos are going to stare at you. I mentioned that in another video. You can't take that personally. And I did a video called The Fat Report, in which I talked about the Filipinos' tendency to tell you you've gotten fat. In a related note, one thing that I noticed is in Filipino culture, it doesn't seem to be very taboo to joke about someone's physical appearance. And I remember one time I went to a grocery store, and the people involved in this didn't know that I understood them, but I walked by a couple of guys that were like, stock boys or something. They were stocking groceries and stocking the shelves. I mean, and so when I walked by them, I remember they kind of laughed, and one of them said, "Kulay yellow," which is the color of ice. They were saying I looked like, Iceman or a snowman or something. Now, what was my response to that? Well, I just kind of chuckled to myself and moved on. So, in other words, if you start picking up the language and you hear different comments, or you see people staring or whatever, you just can't be sensitive about that. And so that's going to happen to you. If you're a black person visiting the Philippines, that's probably going to happen to you. And, it's just like it happened to me, even though I'm on the other end of the color spectrum. It's just one of those things, if you can't be sensitive about it or have a chip on your shoulder about it. I think what you'll find is, regardless of what color you are, Filipinos are going to be very friendly towards you. They may stare, they may joke around, but generally speaking, they're very hospitable people, and if you treat them well, then they will treat you well. One quick thing that I'll add to this, one slight barrier that you may have to overcome. Generally speaking, when you're a foreigner, when you're an American, I'll just say this from an American standpoint. As an American, when I visited the Philippines, I had to go in there understanding that a lot of their views about America are shaped by the media. So obviously, that's not such a good impression of what Americans are like. And so that is also going to apply to African Americans. There's a good chance that if they've never talked to a black American in person, their views about you may have been shaped by American media. And if you think about that, that's not always such a good thing. If they've been listening to rap music in McDonald's, which they do blast that kind of music at the fast food stores, where every other word is a curse word or something, then that may kind of give them the wrong impression. But again, if you're friendly and if you're respectful, I think what you'll find is in no time you will give them a new perspective on what black people are really like. So anyway, the short version is no matter what color you are, if you're interested in visiting the Philippines or dating and marrying a Filipina, don't let that be a hindrance, because it will not be if you don't let it. So anyway, I hope this helps, and if you have questions or comments, please leave it in the video in the comment section below. I would especially like to hear from African Americans. If you have a comment you want to make, be sure to put it here in the comment section below. So anyway, I hope this video's helped.